Hello, my name is William, and welcome to Dragon X Dominion, a realm where dragon legends are forged in fire, honor, and forgotten worlds. I will be your narrator and guide through these epic lands. If you crave powerful stories, legendary dragons, and wars that echo through eternity, then you found your home, ladies and gentlemen. So subscribe, and claim your place among these legends.
The containment pod hissed open at 3 in the morning, and Riley Bennett was the only person in the lab to hear it. Everyone else had gone to bed hours ago, leaving the night shift to the lowest-ranked member of the research team. Riley didn't mind. The quiet hours were better anyway, no condescending remarks from the senior staff, no reminders that humans were still the newcomers in galactic science. Riley walked over to the incubation unit where the dragon egg had been sitting for the past 2 months. The shell was cracking, pieces falling away to reveal something small and dark inside. Riley had read every file on dragons from the planet Drakmer. Massive creatures, intelligent and powerful, nearly extinct because other species had tried to turn them into weapons. This egg was part of a desperate conservation program, one last attempt to save the species. The hatchling tumbled out onto the warming pad, all wet scales and folded wings. It was tiny, barely the size of Riley's forearm. Its eyes opened, deep gold with flecks of red, and locked onto Riley's face. For a moment, neither moved. Then the little dragon made a sound, somewhere between a chirp and a growl, and Riley felt something in their chest tighten. "Hey there, little one," Riley whispered, reaching out slowly. The dragon sniffed Riley's hand, then pressed its snout against the palm. Warm, very warm. Riley spent the next hour carefully cleaning the hatchling and running basic health scans. Everything seemed normal. Strong heartbeat, good lung capacity, no obvious defects. Riley made detailed notes, knowing the senior researchers would want a full report in the morning. The dragon stayed calm through all of it, watching Riley with those strange, intelligent eyes. When the day shift arrived, everything changed. Commander Tessik, the station's leader, came down to the lab with 3 other researchers. Tessik was Chitara, an insectoid species known for efficiency and strict protocols. Her compound eyes reflected the lab lights as she examined the hatchling. "It appears weak," Tessik said, her mandibles clicking. "Response time is slow, muscle tone is poor." "It only hatched a few hours ago," Riley said carefully. "Maybe it needs time to adjust." A luminoid researcher named Prax stepped forward, his crystalline body chiming softly. "I am detecting minimal energy output. Dragon hatchlings should radiate considerable heat and electromagnetic activity. This one barely registers." The dragon lay on the examination table, limp and unresponsive. Its eyes were half closed, its breathing shallow. Riley frowned. This wasn't the same creature from earlier. The dragon had been alert and active when they were alone. Tessik made a note on her data pad. "This specimen appears to be defective. The conservation program cannot afford to waste resources on failed genetics. I recommend termination." "Wait," Riley said, stepping forward. "You can't just kill it. We don't know what's wrong yet. Maybe it's sick, maybe it needs different food or environmental conditions." "The decision is not yours to make," Tessik said coldly. "You are a junior researcher. Your opinion is noted but not relevant." Riley's hands clenched into fists. "Then let me take care of it, on my own time. I'll do all the work, keep all the records. If it doesn't improve, then you can make your decision, but give it a chance." Tessik's antennae twitched. "You would accept responsibility for a failed specimen. This will reflect poorly on your record." "I don't care," Riley said. "It deserves a chance." The commander considered this for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, you have 2 weeks. If the specimen shows no improvement, it will be disposed of. Do not let this interfere with your regular duties." The other researchers left, already dismissing the dragon as a waste of time. Riley waited until they were gone, then looked down at the hatchling. Its eyes opened fully alert and aware. Riley's breath caught. "You were faking," Riley said softly. "Why?" The dragon didn't answer, of course. It just watched Riley with those golden eyes, as if measuring something, judging something. Then it stood up, stretched its wings, and made that chirping growl sound again. Riley set up a private habitat in a corner of the lab, using spare equipment and their own credits to buy proper heating elements and food supplements. Over the next few days, a pattern emerged. Whenever other staff members were present, the dragon acted sick and weak. It refused food, barely moved, seemed on the edge of death. Tessik came by twice to check, both times shaking her head at the pathetic creature. But when Riley was alone with the dragon, everything changed. The hatchling was active and playful. It solved simple puzzles Riley set up, learned to recognize different foods, even started responding to its name. Riley had started calling it Little One, and the dragon seemed to like it. Riley didn't understand what was happening, but one thing was clear. This dragon was not defective. It was choosing to appear weak, choosing to hide whatever it really was. And for some reason, it had decided to trust Riley with the truth. On the 7th night, Riley sat next to the habitat after a long shift. "I don't know what you're doing," Riley said quietly. "But I promise I'll keep you safe. Whatever you are, whatever you're hiding, I won't let them hurt you." The dragon climbed up onto Riley's lap, curled into a ball, and went to sleep. Its body was warm, and Riley could feel its heartbeat, strong and steady. Not weak at all, not even close. Riley looked at the security camera in the corner of the lab, currently disabled for maintenance. Tomorrow it would be fixed, and they would have to go back to pretending. But for now, in this quiet moment, Riley and the dragon could just be themselves. Two beings from different worlds, learning to trust each other in a galaxy that trusted neither of them. 3 weeks had passed since the dragon hatched, and Riley was exhausted. Working double shifts to keep up with regular duties while caring for Little One in secret was wearing them down. But every time Riley thought about giving up, those golden eyes would look at them with such trust that quitting became impossible. The other researchers had stopped checking on the dragon entirely. To them, it was already dead, just waiting for the paperwork to catch up. Commander Tessik had extended the deadline twice, mostly because she was too busy with other projects to bother with the termination. Riley was grateful for the bureaucracy that usually drove them crazy. Little One had grown, but only when they were alone. The dragon was now the size of a large dog, with scales that shifted between black and deep purple in the light. Its wings were stronger, and it could hover for a few seconds at a time. Riley had started bringing books about Earth animals, and the dragon seemed fascinated by the pictures, especially the ones showing wolves and lions. "You like the predators, huh?" Riley said one night, watching the dragon trace its claw over an image of a tiger. "Makes sense. You're a predator too, aren't you?" The dragon made a rumbling sound deep in its chest, something that Riley had learned meant agreement. They were developing a language of sorts, not words, but feelings and sounds that both could understand. Riley had stopped questioning how they knew what the dragon meant. It just felt right. Then everything went wrong on a random Tuesday afternoon. Riley was in the main lab, analyzing samples from a new plant species, when the alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the station, and the computer voice announced a containment breach in Section 7. That was 3 levels down, in the high security area where they kept the dangerous specimens. "All personnel evacuate to safe zones," Tessik's voice crackled over the intercom. "Security teams respond to Section 7. We have a Class 4 predator loose." Riley's blood went cold. Class 4 meant something that could kill in seconds, something that required armed response teams. The lab was supposed to be safe, reinforced doors, and emergency locks. But Riley wasn't thinking about personal safety. Little One was in the side habitat, alone and supposedly helpless. Riley ran to the habitat room, fingers shaking as they entered the access code. The dragon was pressed against the far wall, wings spread, eyes fixed on the door. It looked genuinely scared, and Riley felt a surge of protective anger. "It's okay," Riley said, moving to the habitat. "I'm here. I won't let anything hurt you." The door to the lab exploded inward. The security lock had been torn apart like paper. Through the smoke and debris came something out of a nightmare. It looked like a bear crossed with a spider, 8 legs supporting a massive body covered in armored plates. Its mouth was full of serrated teeth, and its eyes glowed a sickly yellow. Riley had read about these creatures, reavers from a high-gravity death world on the rim. They were kept for study because their biology was fascinating. They were also nearly impossible to kill and ate anything that moved. The reaver saw Riley and charged. Riley didn't have time to think, just dove toward the habitat where Little One was. The creature's claw caught Riley's leg, tearing through cloth and skin. Pain exploded up Riley's side and they hit the floor hard. The dragon made a sound Riley had never heard before. It was high and sharp, cutting through the alarm sirens like a blade. The temperature in the room jumped 20 degrees in an instant. Riley looked up through tears of pain and saw something impossible. Little One was growing, expanding, its body shifting and changing. The dragon that had been the size of a dog became the size of a horse in seconds. Its scales turned bright red, glowing with internal heat. Energy crackled around its body, purple lightning dancing between its claws. The reaver hesitated, its predator instincts suddenly screaming danger. Little One moved like living lightning. One moment it was in the habitat, the next it was on top of the reaver, claws tearing through armor that could stop bullets. The dragon's jaws closed on the creature's neck, and there was a flash of light so bright Riley had to close their eyes. When they opened them again, the reaver was dead, its body smoking and still. The dragon turned to Riley, still massive and glowing. It took one step forward, then collapsed. The light faded, the size shrank back down, and suddenly Little One was small again, looking weak and fragile. The dragon's eyes closed, and its breathing became shallow. Riley heard voices shouting, footsteps running toward the lab. Security was coming. Riley made a decision in a split second. They grabbed a piece of the destroyed equipment, a heavy metal bar, and positioned themselves between the dragon and the dead reaver. When Tessik and the security team burst through the door, they found Riley standing over the reaver's corpse, bleeding and holding the improvised weapon. "I killed it," Riley said, trying to keep their voice steady. "It came in through the door. I grabbed what I could. The emergency power surge must have electrocuted it." Tessik looked at the scene, her compound eyes taking in every detail. The dead reaver, Riley's injuries, the unconscious dragon in the habitat. "You killed a reaver with a metal bar." "Adrenaline," Riley said, "and luck." The commander didn't look convinced, but she didn't argue. She ordered the medical team to take Riley to the infirmary and called for a full investigation. As they carried Riley out, Riley looked back at the habitat. Little One was still lying motionless, playing its role perfectly. But just before they left, Riley saw one golden eye open and look at them. The dragon was saying thank you the only way it could, by keeping the secret they now both shared. Riley spent 2 days in the medical wing with a bandaged leg and strict orders to rest. The injury wasn't serious, but the station's doctor, a kindly deepkin named Coral, insisted on monitoring for infection. Riley didn't argue. It gave them time to think about what had happened, about what Little One really was. Between visits from medical staff, Riley used their personal tablet to research everything they could find about dragons. Most of it was classified or restricted, but Riley had learned a few tricks for accessing older, less protected databases. What they found changed everything. Dragons from Drakmar weren't just powerful creatures. They were ancient, possibly older than most spacefaring civilizations. Thousands of years ago, they had lived alongside another species, one that had vanished from all records. The relationship wasn't master and pet. It was partnership, bonding, something deeper than the galaxy currently understood. But then other species discovered the dragons and saw only weapons. They tried to capture them, control them, force them into service. The dragons fought back, and the resulting war nearly destroyed several worlds. In the end, the dragons retreated to their home planet and cut themselves off from the galaxy. Their numbers had dropped to critical levels. This conservation program was supposedly about saving them. But Riley wondered now if it was really about that, or if someone was hoping to get another chance at controlling such powerful beings. Riley also found something else. Old legends, stories passed down through multiple cultures, they all said the same thing. Dragons chose their partners carefully, testing them, watching them. A dragon would hide its true nature until it found someone worthy of trust, and once that trust was given, the bond was unbreakable. Little One had been testing everyone on the station. Riley was certain of it now. The dragon had watched each species, each individual looking for something, and for reasons Riley didn't fully understand, the dragon had chosen them. When Riley returned to the lab, Tessik was waiting. The commander's antennae were twitching rapidly, a sign of agitation. "We need to discuss the incident," she said. "The investigation has raised questions." Riley's heart raced, but they kept their expression calm. "What kind of questions?" The reaver's body showed signs of massive thermal damage. The metal bar you used shows no corresponding blood or tissue. The power surge you mentioned didn't match station records. Tessik leaned forward. "What really happened in that room?" Riley met her compound eyes steadily. "I told you." "What happened? Are you calling me a liar?" "I am calling you protective," Tessik said. "Of that dragon, you have spent more time with it than any other specimen. You defend it constantly. You refuse to let it be terminated." She paused. "What are you hiding?" "Nothing," Riley said. "The dragon is still weak, still failing. You can check it yourself." Tessik did exactly that. She walked to the habitat where Little One lay in its usual position, barely moving, eyes half closed. The commander ran her scanner over the dragon, checking vital signs. Everything read as weak and declining. "It will die soon," Tessik said finally. "Whether we terminate it or not, perhaps that is for the best." After she left, Riley waited 10 minutes to make sure she was really gone. Then they approached the habitat. "You're getting really good at that act," Riley said softly. Little One's eyes opened fully, bright and alert. The dragon stood up and pressed its snout against the glass. Riley placed their hand on the other side, and they stayed like that for a moment, neither speaking but both understanding. "I know what you are now," Riley said. "I know about the bonding, about the choosing. You picked me, didn't you? Out of everyone on this station, you picked the human." Dragon made that rumbling sound of agreement. But then it did something new. Riley felt something in their mind, not words exactly, but concepts. Images and feelings flowing directly into their thoughts. Riley saw through the dragon's eyes, saw themselves on that first night, gentle and careful with a newborn creature. Saw themselves standing up to Tessik, refusing to let the dragon be killed. Saw themselves diving toward the habitat during the reaver attack, choosing to die rather than leave the dragon alone. The dragon had been watching for kindness without agenda, for protection without ownership, for trust without control. And humans apparently were capable of such things. Riley also saw other things. Other stations, other dragons, other researchers. The dragons were watching everywhere, testing everyone. This wasn't just about saving the species. It was about finding allies in a galaxy that had only ever seen them as tools or threats. "You need friends," Riley said, understanding flooding through them. "You need someone who won't try to use you, and you think humans might be that species." The dragon projected agreement again, but also uncertainty. One human wasn't enough. One bond didn't prove anything. The dragon needed to know if Riley was unique or if this quality existed in humans generally. "So what do we do?" Riley asked. "Keep hiding, keep pretending you're dying." More images came. A visitor coming soon. An inspector from the Galactic Council sent to evaluate the conservation program. He would want to see all the specimens, including failed ones. He would recommend termination, and this time Tessik wouldn't be able to delay. "They're going to kill you," Riley said, feeling cold. "Unless we run, I could steal a shuttle, get you out of here." But the dragon projected refusal. Running would prove nothing. Hiding would teach nothing. If humans and dragons were going to be true partners, then the truth had to come out. But it had to come out in the right way at the right time. Riley understood. The dragon wanted to reveal itself, but not in fear or violence. It wanted to show the galaxy what real partnership looked like, what trust between species could achieve. "You're asking me to trust you," Riley said. "To let this inspector come, to let them try to kill you and trust that somehow it will work out." The dragon looked at Riley with those ancient, golden eyes. And Riley made a choice that would change everything. Inspector Vorath arrived on a cold morning when the station's artificial lights were just starting their dawn cycle. He was tall, even for his species, with scales that gleamed silver and eyes like chips of ice. Riley had read his file. Vorath had shut down 12 conservation programs in the last 5 years, always citing efficiency and resource management. He believed in results, not hope. Tessik assembled all the researchers in the main observation deck. Riley stood in the back, trying to look professional despite the nervousness eating at their stomach. Little One was 3 levels down in the habitat, waiting. They had talked about this in the strange way they communicated now. The dragon was ready. Riley just had to trust. Inspector Vorath will be evaluating all our programs, Tessik announced. Please provide full cooperation and complete transparency. This station's funding depends on a positive review. Vorath spent the morning touring the facility, examining specimens with a cold, clinical eye. He asked sharp questions and accepted no vague answers. 2 programs were immediately flagged for termination. The researchers involved looked devastated, but Vorath showed no emotion. Finally, inevitably, they reached the dragon habitat. Riley followed the group, hands clenched behind their back. This is the Drachmer specimen, Tessik explained. It hatched approximately 2 months ago. As you can see, it has failed to thrive. Vorath approached the glass, studying Little One with the same expression someone might use to examine a broken tool. The dragon lay still, breathing shallow, eyes barely open. It looked like it might die at any moment. Genetic defect, Vorath asked. Unknown, Tessik said. Possibly, or perhaps the incubation was faulty. The egg came from an unstable region of Drachmer. Has it shown any typical dragon characteristics? Heat generation, energy manipulation, enhanced strength. None, Tessik said. It can barely eat. Researcher Bennett has been caring for it, but there has been no improvement. Vorath turned to look at Riley. You are the human, correct? The one who prevented this specimen's termination. Yes, sir, Riley said, keeping their voice steady. Why? What value do you see in maintaining a failed organism? Riley had prepared for this question. Every specimen teaches us something. Even failure provides data. Understanding why this dragon didn't develop properly could help future conservation efforts. A noble sentiment, Vorath said, but his tone suggested he thought otherwise. However, resources are limited. This station could use this habitat for a viable specimen, one that contributes to actual species survival rather than consuming resources indefinitely. He pulled out his data pad and made several notes. My recommendation is immediate termination. This specimen has no research value, no conservation value, and represents a significant waste of station resources. Commander Tessik, please arrange for disposal by end of day. Riley's heart hammered. Wait, just give us more time. Maybe there's a treatment we haven't tried. I have reviewed all your reports, Researcher Bennett. You have had 2 months. The creature is dying. Prolonging that serves no purpose except to satisfy your emotional attachment. Vorath's eyes were cold. This is why humans should not work with specimens. You form bonds that interfere with logical decision-making. Something hot flared in Riley's chest. And maybe that's exactly what you need. Maybe logic isn't. Everything, maybe caring about life, even failed life, is what makes someone actually worthy of protecting it. The other researchers stared at Riley. Tessik's antennae flattened against her head, a sign of shock. Vorath simply raised one scaled eyebrow. You are questioning my judgment. I'm questioning a system that sees living beings as just data points, Riley said. The words were coming faster now, fueled by weeks of frustration. You walk through this station checking boxes, deciding what lives and what dies, but you don't actually care about any of it. It's all just numbers to you. That is correct, Vorath said calmly. Because emotion clouds judgment. It makes you protect the weak when resources should go to the strong. It makes you waste time on failures when success is what matters. Little One isn't a failure, Riley said, and immediately regretted using the name. Too personal, too emotional. Little one, Vorath smiled, and it wasn't kind. You have named it. How predictable. This is exactly the problem with your species, researcher Bennett. You anthropomorphize everything. You see personality where there is only instinct. You see friendship where there is only biological response. Riley looked at the habitat. Little one was still lying there, playing its role. But Riley could see one golden eye fixed on them, watching, waiting. The dragon had said to trust, to let this happen. But watching Vorath condemn Little One to death was harder than Riley had imagined. You have until sunset, Vorath said to Tessik. After that, I will mark this program as failed in my report. The termination must be completed before I leave tomorrow morning. The group moved on to the next exhibit. Riley stayed behind, pressing their hand against the glass of the habitat. I hope you know what you're doing, Riley whispered. Because I'm scared. I'm really scared. The dragon's eye blinked once, slow and deliberate. Trust. The feeling flowed into Riley's mind. Trust me, trust yourself, trust what we can show them. That night, Riley didn't sleep. They sat in the lab watching the habitat, going over everything in their head. At midnight, they started preparing, not to run, not to hide, but to reveal. Riley pulled up every piece of research they had done on dragon bonding. They compiled videos of Little One's behavior when they were alone together. They wrote out a detailed explanation of what they believed was happening. It wasn't much, but it was the truth. When dawn came and the termination was scheduled to begin, Riley walked toward the observation room carrying a data chip with everything on it. Little One walked beside them in their mind, silent but present. They were going to show the galaxy what they really were, together. And whatever happened next would determine not just their fates, but possibly the future of two entire species. The termination room was designed for efficiency, all white walls and sterile equipment. A viewing window let observers watch from a safe distance while the procedure was carried out. Riley had been in this room before, watching other failed specimens be humanely disposed of. It had always felt wrong, but this was different. This was personal. Tessik stood by the control panel with Vorath beside her. The other senior researchers filled the observation area, along with several members of the Galactic Council who had come to witness the inspector's final report. Little One had been moved to the center chamber, still playing its role as the dying, defective specimen. Riley stepped forward before anyone could begin. I request permission to speak. Vorath looked annoyed. This is not a trial, researcher Bennett. The decision has been made. I have evidence, Riley said, holding up the data chip. Evidence that this specimen isn't defective, that it's been hiding its true capabilities. The room went silent. Tessik's antennae twitched. What are you saying? I'm saying that Little One, this dragon, has been testing us, testing all of us, and we failed. Riley plugged the chip into the display system. But I'm hoping we get one more chance to pass. The screen lit up with video footage. Little One solving puzzles that should have been impossible for its supposed intelligence level. Little One responding to Riley's voice, showing understanding and personality. Little One displaying strength and coordination far beyond what any medical scan had indicated. This is fabricated, Vorath said immediately. Computer-generated imagery designed to save a specimen you have formed an emotional attachment to. It's real, Riley said, and I can prove it. But first, you need to understand what you're looking at. This isn't a failed dragon. This is a dragon who chose to appear failed because it was looking for something specific. Riley pulled up the ancient texts. They had found the stories about dragon bonding. Dragons don't just exist. They partner. They form bonds with other intelligent species, creating relationships that benefit both sides. But they're selective. They test potential partners looking for specific qualities. Fairy tales, Vorath said dismissively. Myths created by primitive cultures who didn't understand the biology they were observing. Maybe, Riley said. Or maybe the reason dragons are nearly extinct is because everyone treats them like you do. Like tools, like weapons, like things to be controlled rather than individuals to be respected. One of the council members, an elderly luminoid named Brightness, spoke up. Even if what you say is true, what does it matter? One dragon forming an attachment to one human proves nothing. It proves that humans are capable of what others aren't, Riley said. We're new to the galaxy, we don't have your technology or your experience, but we have something else. We see people, not resources. We make friends, not tools. And maybe that's exactly what the dragons have been looking for. Vorath had heard enough. He moved to the control panel. This is wasting time. Commander Tessik, begin the procedure. Tessik hesitated, looking at Riley, then at the dragon. Her hand hovered over the activation button. Wait, Riley said desperately. Little one, please show them what you really are. In the chamber, the dragon's eyes opened fully, golden and bright and ancient. The temperature in both rooms jumped 10 degrees. Energy began crackling around the dragon's body, purple lightning dancing across its scales. Security breach, someone shouted. The containment field is failing. But it wasn't failing. It was being pushed aside. Little one stood up, and as everyone watched, the dragon began to grow. Larger, filling the chamber that had seemed spacious moments before. Its scales shifted from dull black to brilliant crimson, glowing with internal fire. Its wings spread, and even folded they touched both walls. The dragon that had fit in Riley's arms was now the size of a small spacecraft, and it was magnificent. Vorath stumbled backward. Impossible. The scans showed nothing. The genetic tests indicated complete developmental failure. Because that's what Little One wanted you to see, Riley said. Dragons can control how they appear to others. They can hide their power until they choose to reveal it. And Little One chose to reveal it now to all of you because we're at a crossroads. The dragon's voice filled everyone's mind, not words but pure meaning. Every being in both rooms heard it clearly. The dragon spoke of watching, of testing, of searching for those who could be trusted. It spoke of the other eggs, the other hatchlings on other stations, all waiting to see what would happen here. It spoke of a choice. The galaxy could continue seeing dragons as weapons to fear or tools to control, or the galaxy could see them as the partners they were meant to be. But that choice required species capable of genuine partnership, species that valued connection over power. Species like humans. Vorath tried to speak, but no sound came out. He looked terrified. Most of the observers did. They were seeing something they thought they understood completely transform into something far beyond their comprehension. But Riley saw something else in their reactions. Calculation. Several of the council members were already thinking about how to use this, how to exploit it, how to turn dragon partnership into advantage. You can't contain this, Riley said quietly. Little One could leave any time, could destroy this station if it wanted to, but it won't, because that would prove you right, that dragons are just destructive forces to be feared. The dragon lowered its massive head to the viewing window, looking directly at Riley through the reinforced glass. Trust, it projected. Show them trust. Riley understood. This was the real test. Not of the dragon, but of humanity. The galaxy was watching. Whatever happened next would define how humans were seen by everyone, as another species seeking power or as something different. I'm going in there, Riley said, moving toward the chamber door. Alone, unarmed, and I'm going to stand next to Little One. You'll be killed, Tessik said. No, Riley said with certainty, I won't. The chamber door hissed open, and Riley stepped inside. Every instinct screamed to run from the massive creature that dominated the space, radiating heat and power. But Riley's steps were steady, walking forward until they stood directly beneath the dragon's enormous head. Little One's golden eyes, now each the size of Riley's torso, looked down at them with unmistakable affection. The dragon lowered its head until its snout touched Riley's chest, gentle despite the size. Difference, Riley reached up and placed both hands on the dragon's scales, warm and smooth under their palms. I trust you, Riley said softly. I've always trusted you. In the observation room, chaos erupted. Tessik was demanding security protocols. Vorath was insisting the chamber be sealed and flooded with sedatives. Several council members were shouting contradictory orders, but Brightness, the elderly luminoid, raised a crystalline hand for silence. "Look at them," Brightness said, her voice chiming through the commotion. "Truly look." Everyone stopped and stared through the window. Riley stood beside the dragon, completely at ease, while the creature that could destroy the station with a thought remained perfectly gentle. The dragon's tail curled around Riley in a protective gesture, and Riley leaned against it naturally, as if they had done this 1,000 times before. "This is bonding," Brightness said with wonder. "The old texts were right. This is what dragons were meant to be." The dragon's voice filled their minds again, stronger now. It showed them images, memories from centuries past. Dragons working alongside another species, building cities, exploring worlds, creating art and science together. Partnership in its truest form, where neither was master or servant, but equals choosing to combine their strengths. Then the images turned dark, other species arriving, seeing only power to be taken. Wars, betrayal. Dragons forced to choose between genocide or isolation, the retreat to Drakmar, the slow decline into near extinction. Until the conservation program, until the eggs were sent out, one last attempt to find what had been lost, to find species capable of true partnership rather than exploitation. "The other hatchlings are watching," Riley said, still standing with Little One. "Right now, on stations across the galaxy, they're seeing this, and they're deciding whether to reveal themselves or to let your program fail, whether to trust the galaxy or to let their species die out rather than become weapons again." Vorath had regained some composure. "If what you say is true, then this is even more serious than I thought. These creatures are far too dangerous to exist without regulation and control." "That's exactly the wrong answer," Riley said, feeling anger rise. "You're already thinking about how to control them, how to regulate them, how to make sure they can't threaten you. That's why they've been hiding, because species like yours only see threats or tools, never partners." "And your species is different," Vorath challenged. "Humans are aggressive, territorial, and known for violence. What makes you think you're better?" Before Riley could answer, something unexpected happened. The door to the observation room opened, and 3 other humans from the station entered. They weren't scientists, just support staff, technicians who kept the station running. Riley barely knew their names. But they walked to the window and stood beside Riley's empty chair. One of them, a woman named Anne who worked in maintenance, spoke up. "We're with Riley. Whatever happens to them happens to all of us." A young man named David from the cafeteria nodded. "We've been watching this whole thing. If the dragon trusts Riley, then we trust them both." The third human, an older man named Foster who managed waste systems, added, "You want to know what makes humans different? We stand with our own, always, even against long odds, even against powerful enemies. That's who we are." Tessik looked stunned. "You would risk yourselves for one researcher and a dragon you know nothing about." "Yes," Anne said simply. "That's exactly what we would do." More humans began arriving, responding to messages sent through the station's internal network. Within minutes, every human on the research station, all 23 of them, stood together in the observation room and corridor outside. A wall of solidarity that hadn't been planned or coordinated, just humans doing what they did naturally. Standing together when one of their own needed them. The dragon projected feelings of surprise and deep satisfaction. This was what it had hoped to find. Not just one human capable of trust, but a species with trust woven into its nature. Humans who would defend each other, protect each other, stand with each other against any odds. A transmission came through on the main screen. It was from Drakmar, directly from the planet's surface. An adult dragon, massive and ancient, its scales scarred from centuries of life. When it spoke, everyone heard. "We have been watching, we have been testing, and we have found what we sought. The humans have passed the trials not through strength or cunning, but through loyalty and courage and trust. We offer formal partnership to the human species, not as masters or servants, but as equals who choose to build something better together." Other transmissions came flooding in. The other hatchlings across the galaxy, revealing themselves on their stations, their true power on display. Each one had bonded with a human. Each one had found the same qualities Riley had shown. Vorath looked at the screens, at the dragons appearing everywhere, at the humans standing united. His expression shifted from fear to calculation to resignation. The Council will need to discuss this development. Yes, Brightness said. You will, but I suspect the decision is already made. The dragons have chosen their partners, and the galaxy will need to adapt to this new reality. Riley stood in the chamber with Little One, watching through the window as everything changed. The dragon projected contentment and hope, feelings Riley echoed. They had both been so alone before, so isolated in a galaxy that didn't understand them. But they weren't alone anymore. Riley had Little One, and Little One had Riley. The humans had found powerful allies who valued them not for what they could provide, but for who they were. And the dragons had found the partners they had been searching for across centuries. The galaxy was changing, and it started with one person who refused to let a supposedly defective dragon be killed. One person who chose trust over fear, compassion over calculation, partnership over power. That was the human way, and maybe, just maybe, it was exactly what the galaxy needed.